Okay, so, well, I'm not trying to figure out exactly what to say because I don't have to, because I've done that a million times over. So for Medstar, this is the material you need to have. You need to have that entire case with my last name versus Innova. Okay, you're responsible for the entire, all the papers connected to that. Okay, you are responsible for the YouTube video where it's Innova Neurology, and there are 2 videos. Now the only thing different is in the video I try to say it's more a level of incompetence, but it really isn't. It was simple stuff any physician got, and those physicians understood exactly what was going on. So, and Medstar's attorneys, I know Medstar's legal has already seen all those papers, so they can just go ahead. I'm not going to print it out. Medstar's legal can go ahead and forward it to my primary care, and my primary care can incorporate it into my records. That has to come along with my records. That entire case filing has to be in my record. So when somebody else asks for my records, that entire case filing has to be there. Okay, that's how things work. And it's because you are looking at the patient's genitalia and their personal life and stuff, so you want to get everything in. So make sure everything is in. Okay, so then you need to get the letter that I send, Attention Tim, which was a 14-page letter, and that was sent in November of 2014. And and then after that, there is a YouTube video which comes up as Dar and Medstar. That's Dr. Dar, D-H-A-R, that's your doctor, Dar and Medstar. And, quite openly it comes up right on the search results. It flashes a couple of times right in the front. Dr. Dar is so dishonest that she harms patients and defrauds the government. Okay, so you are responsible for listening to those 2 videos as well. Okay, and then I sent a letter to let me see. I sent a letter to Medstar in Baltimore, Attention Compliance, and it was received on March 6th. Okay, and you are responsible for the contents of that entire letter. It was a big letter. Actually, the letter was not that long, but there were a lot of attachments, and it had a lot of information about Dr. OK, a cardiologist, and problems to be resolved. Then after that, then we had a whole bunch of recorded phone calls, and even I recorded after getting permission, I recorded the phone calls with Medstar's agents. And then I finally sent a letter to Medstar, and you should probably get it on the 23rd, Monday or something, right? So it's Monday the 23rd or the 22nd or whatever. And so let me see. Monday is going to be, Monday is the 23rd. And you probably got it already on Saturday. Anyway, so you should have that information, Medstar. And in that letter, I'm making requests, and you need to comply with those requests. Now, so I think we can go back to the beginning. Prior to me going to Innova, I had obviously some cardiovascular abnormality, but really it was very stable. I didn't even get any care for about 10 years, and it was the same from 2003 all the way to 2013. and there was nothing wrong. I mean, what the problem really was is the abnormality. It manifested itself as something like a workplace disability, kind of a productivity issue mainly. So it was like a productivity issue. I couldn't do things at a normal speed. So that was a big problem, and that was clearly acknowledged by Innova's neurologist, who did a complete neurological, physical exam plus the interview, and spent a long time with me. Now, it wasn't any kind of testing, like electronic testing, but so. Really, that's what Innova's neurologist concluded, and that neurologist was right. That's exactly correct. I mean, that's really the only problem that I needed solved. And then I went to an MRI facility, which was run by a criminal, basically a felon. And the felon hired somebody else who really obviously had psychological issues, and so he committed a severe cardiovascular injury upon me, and this is with a simple MRI injection. Now, it's not the injection itself. He gave the injection originally, but this was an additional injection performed in a different way that caused harm so severe that I was unconscious for an hour, and he was checking after that if I turned into a fucking retard. That's exactly the point. He was checking if I turned into a fucking retard. So the injuries were that bad, and so I went to Innova's doctor and mentioned those items, and I didn't even know that how bad the harm was. I mean, really, I noticed the signs on my face, like swellings under my eyes, but it didn't have any pain. And I think I've noticed some cold fingers and toes, but I think and then ultimately it was found that there was an aneurysm on the ascending aorta and stenosis in the arm where the injection was performed, and stenosis all over the arteries leading back up to the heart. But I think all in all, still, I don't think I had any injuries to my heart itself. So maybe the aneurysm would have to be taken care of in like 15 years. But symptom-wise, I don't think I had much of a problem symptom-wise. So that's why I wasn't even complaining much, but I did. So then this doctor, obviously, because the head of the practice, I mentioned to them, Dr. John Cochran, he looks like a child molester, and I corrected myself to say he looks like a child sex offender, because I don't want you to think that he's only capable of committing like some low-level child molestation. No, he looks like a child sex offender, so he probably does, he's probably capable of every one of the the child sex offender crimes. So again, and you can look at his picture on the internet. He looks just like a pervert. I mean, literally, Dr. John Cochran looks like the person, you hear about these people like 20, 30 years. Later, someone makes the accusations, and you see the person's face flashed on the news. Well, you look at his image. He looks just like that pervert. So this pervert, Dr. John Cochran, in fact, his behavior is just like that. So, and I think, there's really no way to say that he's not a child sex offender, because the medical board, they basically just accept a doctor and they give a license if they meet the requirements for practicing medicine. But there is no background check, and there's no psychological screening, so forth. So you could have a pervert, and it so happened, I guess he's not in the business of taking care of kids, so I guess maybe he's not doing that. But so in the job that he does stuff like so he does what he can. So obviously nobody works for this fucking a-hole. So, and you can see that, all the doctors come and go. Nobody works for him, and that's so they have a monopoly in Northern Virginia. So really, you only see Dr. John Cochran's, the Innova practice that he heads. Basically, they have a monopoly all over Virginia, and because of his personality, he's a psychopath, so nobody wants to work for him. Even if they work for him, they get the hell out. You can notice that. And nobody wants to compete anywhere near him because they know, right? You can see that. Nobody wants to compete anywhere near him, because if you look at the Maryland neurology practices, you really have some well-qualified neurologists, and you kind of see a pattern of stability, you know, where the same doctors are there for 10, 20 years, whatever. And then years down the road, they add a new doctor and that kind of thing. So in this case, doctors just come and go, and he gets the worst qualified doctors. So since he had a policy where just to make money and not get into any kind of problems or not to do any real work, he had essentially frightened this doctor, and this doctor immediately started to cover up and lie. And the doctor knew exactly what was going on. And so what the doctor did is, the doctor lied and said that I had migraines and the doctor wanted to treat me for migraines, even though the doctor's own records say that my migraines resolved 10 years ago, and the doctor never even puts the migraines anywhere in problem list or in diagnosis. No, just that the doctor wants to treat for migraines as a distraction. Now, with all these new cardiovascular injuries, along with that previous, relatively very minor heart condition, the medicine that she gave me is the worst she can give, because it's verapamil. And verapamil, the way it works, it causes a dysfunction, and you know that in the sinus node of the heart, it causes a dysfunction within the heart muscle itself, and it causes a dysfunction within the arteries. Now, I already had problems in these various areas probably, and especially we know the arteries had the problems because what the other person did. So obviously I started getting symptoms right away, and it was clear-cut cardiovascular symptoms, walking up the hill and being short of breath and sweating. So I sent this note basically to Innova, and they got the information, and it didn't take much. They knew exactly what they had done. They had severely injured my heart. But instead of trying to treat me, they concealed it, and they fooled me, and they put garbage in the records to fool a physician down the road. But they assembled a risk management team, and I termed it a death panel, because what they decided is to let my condition get worse and for me to die. So they knew. So it's very simple. There's no doctor has to lie about they don't understand this stuff. Even a second-year med school student knows exactly what happened. That medication caused at a minimum problems with my heart rate. My heart rate wasn't coming up sufficiently with exercise, and then it caused severe ischemia, and all these started to injure the heart. So at least if they had, I even gave them the option to just take care of the problem. I didn't even really want to know what it was. So they could have really suggested a medication, which was a heart medication, which could have helped me, or they could have suggested that when I go up the hill, I don't push myself, because who knows, if you're having like a migraine or any kind of other pain in the past or whatever, you just kind of push yourself through. But for a heart condition, that's the worst thing you can do, because really, when your heart is completely out of blood and you're pushing yourself, you are literally injuring your heart. It's just like a car. And if you run out of oil and you drive your car, you're literally destroying the car. So at least that warning itself could have helped me. Let me continue to the next video.